Um, I have a quote that I'd like to start with, and the theme for a few of the classes is going to be about taking care of your back. And one of the ways to do that, I think, is to utilize the breath. And I came across a quote from Leslie Kaminoff, who's an anatomy and yoga teacher in New York. And he has said that breath is how we mobilize the spaces in our body. And I think if we're paying more attention to that and utilizing it, then we have a better chance of taking good care of our back and not getting injured or overusing. He also said posture is how we stabilize our bodies in space, which I thought was a really lovely way of describing posture, because it is something that people often come to yoga for. So, working with a Brahmari breath, we're going to focus on the area between the navel and the pubic bone, which is sometimes called apana vayu, and it does really wake up the body in a gentle and thoughtful way. So to begin, you'll need your props as usual, bolster, block, belt, and some blankets, and maybe an eye bag for the relaxation at the end. So having said all of that, let's begin. On your mat, and let's, as I was saying, wake up that part of our body just by standing on your mat in a comfortable posture, upright posture. Soften behind your knees and relax your shoulders. And relax your facial features as well. Bring your hands across your abdomen, so one hand below the navel and one hand above. And then with a soft humming sound on the exhalation, let's try some of those. So you begin to contact what we call the core muscles with that sound, and it's a prolonged exhalation after an inhalation. Stay relaxed, inhaling, and at your own pace, exhaling. You can pick any pitch that you want. Maybe just take two more of those breaths. Your hands there are just kind of like a road sign that lets you be directed toward that part of your body, to that space in your body. And let's complete those Brahmari breaths, humming breaths. Just leave your arms by your side now. And come onto the mat, onto all fours position, as in cat pose. And we could even play around with the breath here. So directing the breath to the lower abdominal area, to apana vayu, and with a long exhalation, continuing the Brahmari breath just because we can. You might start to lift your spine on that long exhalation of humming. And then inhale, release the spine. Just the most gentle of movements, just allowing for the breath to wake up the body. And one more like that. And after coming to neutral spine, shoulders back, tuck your toes under, and let's do a gentle downward facing dog pose. So knees lift, buttocks lift, and for kindness to your hamstrings, step your hands out a little bit wider, and especially step your feet wider, as wide as the mat. Flex your knees slightly. And then, as much as you want, lower your heels. As much as you want, or as much as available to you at the moment. And then releasing to the floor. And for any of these poses, you could continue the Brahmari breathing, either audibly or even silently, so you can sense and feel the vibration of the breath. Let's come up into dog pose again. And then step your feet in the regular distance that you would have them for dog pose. And then pedal your feet. This is such a lovely movement for moving the spine, the whole of the spine, and the hips and the pelvis. And then let's stop and make this a static pose. Well, it's never really static, is it? Because there's always the breath, the influence of the breath there. And in this position, lift your heels high, look back at your feet, and be on point as much as you can towards the backs of the toes. And heels are up, and you've got a long line all the way from heels to buttock bones. Then take it into your shoulders, flex your knees slightly, and scoop your buttocks up and back. Beautiful. And then let's take a break and lower down and take some quiet breathing, elbows all the way down, nearer to your knees, and resting. Once more, feel the subtle influence of the breath, and perhaps in that same space, in the lowest part of your torso. All right, and then come all the way up to standing. And facing the short end of your mat, we'll do one of our favorite poses, which is chair pose, a regular strengthening exercise. And with that emphasis on the lower part of your torso. So on the inhalation, flex your knees, bring your arms up alongside your ears. And sometimes we're in consideration of another one of those energy centers in the body. And here you could think about Vijnana, Vayu, where you're extending out to the very pads of your fingers, the tips of your fingers, and completely rooted down through your feet, your legs, and your pelvis, all connected. And inhale and come up. And that's such a lovely pose. Let's do it again with a mini squat and extension through the arms. And then see what it feels like. Feel into the bottom of your buttocks and move them back slightly. Move the knees back slightly. And then if it feels like a nice opening for your center chest, lift your breastplate and tilt your chin up, look up at your thumbs. And exhale, arms down by your side. And let's test our balance by incorporating heel raises in this. So from chair pose, inhale your arms up, steady, grounded through the footprints, right foot, left foot, and then see if you can still balance and lift your heels. And what happens to your breathing when the focus is on balance? See if you can root down through your forefoot, and then keep your heels up and come all the way up to standing. Beautiful. And exhale, arms down. We declare it beautiful even if it was a bit wobbly. It was for me. All right, take, this is something I just learned this week. A stance where your heels are all the way together, heel and toes, and then turn your right foot out at 45 degrees. It's such a little movement, but pause for this time and feel your two footprints, right foot, left foot, the impression that they make onto the mat. And now connect that on the right side with how that feels all along through the right hip, maybe up along the spinal column. So what you've just done is you connected with the deeper muscles that we don't usually experience. And I really feel that across the top of my right hip, my iliac crest. And then let's see whether we can create a little bit more sensation there. Interlock your fingers, turn your palms forward and up, and raise your arms overhead. And then lean away from that right side. And instead of thinking of going down, go up and out. And back to center. And closing your feet once again, heel and toe, and then turn left foot out. Good, just pause there. So we're just not anticipating what's next, just feeling into our bodies, sensing and feeling. And along the right side. And from a grounded left foot to the hip, along the spine. And then maybe increasing that muscle stretch, hands linked overhead, and then leaning away from the left. Good. And pushing out and lifting up. You don't have to lift the shoulders. And can you still feel the breath in the low part of your torso? And then inhale and come up and close the feet as you lower your arms and back to Tadasana. Lovely. Let's continue. We've got some standing poses, and one of our favorites is Warrior Two pose. Step out wide on your mat. And from your stance, wait and feel grounded again through your feet without rotating your feet or anything else. And then turn right foot out, left foot in a little bit, and arms up at shoulder height. Good. Take the lunge on the right side. And then, not so much a correction, but lean back into the left side. Move your left arm further out to the left and feel that left leg just fill out and open up. And then bring your torso back to center and look along your straight right arm. And even here, feel the influence of your breath that allows you to feel more connected to the earth, your feet, your legs, and the breath even imagining the humming breath without necessarily even having to make a sound. And you opened your groins a little bit in that earlier exercise with your foot turned out 45 degrees. Now open that right groin if it feels to do that by moving your right knee back, letting your left thigh come a little forward. Good, looking straight forward and straight right leg. Good, if you like, keep your arms up, or if you need to, rest them, hands onto your hips in between as we switch right foot in, left foot out. Good, we're not doing verbal clues that much, or cues I should say, about alignment. Really more important to work with your breath. And then exhaling and bend the left leg. And do that lean out to the right side and move the right arm over the right leg. Ground that right foot. Coming back to center, your pelvis directly in the center. Look left. Good. Keep your chest nice and high and open. Think about the breath. You can allow it to be circumferential and feel the interior of the rib cage, the interior of the diaphragm. And for the last part, taking the left knee back a little bit, right thigh comes slightly forward to compensate. And then head to center, straight left leg. Good. And then your arms probably need a rest, mind you, resting your arms onto your legs and stepping into center. And let's do like a consolidation. Bring your hands back onto the abdomen. One hand below, one hand above the belly button. Relax your shoulders. Feel your breath there. That breath that opens up space but also helps you feel grounded through the lower body. All right. And then Warrior Two pose, step out wide again. I was going to say, let's do it all over again, but it's never the same pose the second round, is it? Left foot turns in a little bit, turn your right foot out 90 degrees, and bend your right leg. This time, we'll do a little bit of an alignment check. Look down at your right knee, and can you see your toes? So drawing the right knee back a little bit, right over the ankle. So the shin bone is perpendicular. You might feel that more in the upper thigh muscles and in the buttock, right side. And then feeling back into the left leg at the same time. And looking out into the distance, feel your breath. And up we come, and rotating the feet. And bend the left knee. That left knee shoots forward over your toes. Begin to draw it back. So the whole thigh bone sits neatly into its housing, into the hip joint. And chest is high. And keeping the breath down low. Good. And facing forward directly, straighten that left leg, turn feet to center, and walk yourself in. Good. Take time in Tadasana. I have my feet a little bit apart. It gives me more stability. Feel forefoot, feel heel. And then draw energy from the earth up into the legs, into the hips, and into the lowest part of that torso, and feel the breath there. Let's work with vinyasa. So let's still facing the short end of the mat. We're going to have right foot forward, left foot back. For Warrior One pose, Virabhadrasana 1, I can't resist still using the Sanskrit words because they're so lovely and they're the language of yoga. So Virabhadrasana 1, Warrior 1, right foot forward, left foot back. There's a space between the tops of the thighs. And then on an inhalation, and we'll work with movement, inhale, bend your front knee, bring your arms up into goalpost position. Move your elbows back a little bit so your hands are slightly forward of your elbows and feel the strength in your upper part of your back. And then exhale, lower the arms back to the side, straighten the front leg. Inhale and exhale. So simple. So simple. One more like that. Let's add another element. So inhaling and exhale, lean forward over your right leg and extend your arms parallel to the floor as much as you can. And inhale, come back up, goalpost, right leg bent, and lowering your arms. Just a word of caution there. When you extend the arms over your front leg, you're creating a different center of gravity. So make sure that when you take the arms out and down, that you're moving back from the hip crease. I'll just demonstrate it here. So to balance that forward movement, the momentum, the hips are moving back. Okay? Let's go with that again. Inhale, and arms and elbows back. And exhale. That front leg is going to stay bent, but the right hip moving back, the left hip moving a little forward. And inhale and come back up. The front leg still bent. Exhale, straight leg, arms down. Good. We'll go again. We'll just set this up as a kind of choreographed routine. And the cadence of the movement is the breath. Beautiful. Hips, right hip moves back, left hip forward. And finishing. And arms come down, step forward lightly, and right foot back. Good. Take a moment there, and a good alignment hint is left hip rolls back slightly and down, right hip forward and up. And then here we go. And arms bend and front leg bent, and keep the breath low down in the torso and feel it. It helps you ground every time you move. All right, and then let's take the challenge and bring the torso forward over the front leg, arms extend parallel with the floor, and coming back up, and arms come down. If you like, lift your chest, look up at the ceiling. Oops. Let's go two more. I have a bad habit of shortening the timings on the second side. I think all yoga teachers do. And last one. Good. The breathing is good. And let's step forward. And let's add another step with our choreography. And step left foot back. Adding to what we've already established in Warrior 1, we'll move on to Parsvattanasana, or forward fold on one side. Here we go. Inhale. Exhale, lengthening out. We're going to straighten the leg now. Bring the hands down onto the shin bone. Keep your chest lifted and feel into your strong back, your shoulder blades moving in towards the spine. And then releasing, we're going to bend the front leg, bring the arms to goalpost again, and exhale. You've done one round. Again, bend the front leg, warrior one. Exhale, reaching out. Take an extra breath there. When your arms are extended parallel to the floor, inhale. And then exhale, bring your hands down onto your front leg. Let's stay a little bit concave back, shoulder blades in, and then bend the front knee. Inhale, exhale. Let's go again. I think that was a little bit rough. Inhale, exhale, lengthen out. Take another breath there before you dive forward. Inhale and exhale. Still feel the breath low down in your torso. Inhale, coming out. Exhale, releasing down. All right, one more. Good. Take the forward bend. Keep drawing the hips back as you come forward and down. And warrior one, releasing, and take a big step forward. Good. Well, that should feel well warmed up on that side. I do. And left foot forward, right foot back. All right. And then give yourself a little bit of time. Settle. Feet, legs, hips. Adjust your hips, square and level. And then we're ready to move with that addition of the forward fold. Inhale, look up, chest up, chin up. Exhale, extend the arms, draw the hips back, the front leg still bent. Take an extra breath, dive forward, forward fold, hips are back. Inhale and exhale. Good, we're going well. Let's do several more. Getting into the routine. Let's call this the last round. Take that extra breath when the arms are extended, and then hands down for support. Pump up the chest a little bit, lean out, and bending the front leg, bending the elbows, releasing, and right foot to left. Well done. I think what might go well here is to spend a little bit of time in Parsvattanasana. And for that, grab a block. It's such a nice pose that we should give it a little bit more time and energy. Well, that's my opinion. I think it's a nice pose. Right foot forward, left foot back. And the block, if you use it, will be in front of your right foot. After movement, sometimes it takes a few breaths just to settle into both feet again. Feel the energy down into your legs and grounded through your hips. You're going to keep that front leg straight, mostly straight. And inhale and bring your arms straight up. Good, turn your palms forward. And as your hips pull back from the hip crease, extend out and then down. And wherever you land for your body at the moment, hands on the top of the block or holding your shin, let's take that chest up position. So in shorthand, concave back rather than a hoop shape back. So you're trying to move the shoulder blades in and down. Lead with your breastplate. Lead with the heart center. Keep it elevated. And then finally, and if you like to take the next step, the hands maybe come down lower on your leg or all the way down to the floor. Allow the back to round a little bit and even through the neck and chin towards the jugular notch. And even here, still feel, or maybe especially here, feel the breath in the lowest part of your torso. Feel the breath come and go. Right, my front knee's bent a little bit, but not too much, and working towards straightening more. But it doesn't have to be straight. And then let's flex that knee even more and bring your hands onto your hips, lean into your back leg, and let the grounding of your legs bring you up and over to the second side. And left foot forward, right foot back. Because for the most part we're different on the two sides of our body, you just explore this side in a, not a perfunctory way, but just a curious way. What's this side going to be like? And then arms come up. Lean into the back leg a little bit so you can feel the influence of the groundedness of that back leg. And that's your kind of guy wire, and you're extending forward and outwards, and then resting your hands onto wherever they end up. Pump up your chest. Bring the top front corners of your chest forward. And it used to be called in Iyengar yoga your armpit chest. And then coming into a deeper bend at the top of the thigh, as much as you like, and releasing your head down. Keep your shoulders lifting, and you'll get more release and length through the neck. Chin towards the jugular notch, maybe looking back towards your navel center. Lovely. And then flex that left knee a bit, hands to your hips, press your hips down onto your legs onto your feet. Inhale and come up, and step right foot to left. And good work there. And just put the block to the side. We can do a little bit more work. It's a slightly dog pose kind of movement, but we'll do it with forearms onto the floor. So take a kneeling position onto your mat. Interlock your fingers, and then, as I said, bring your forearms down onto the floor. It's looking suspiciously like the lead up or the preparation for headstand, but no standing on your head today. First, looking at your elbows, step them right underneath your shoulders. That's all there is to do at the moment. But then also feel the weight through your wrists as well as your elbows. So you've got that really nice base now. So lift up your chest away from the floor. Lift up your shoulders away from the floor. And we can take it one step more if you're ready to do weight bearing on that structure you've set up. And lift your knees a little bit. Toes are tucked under like dog pose. And as much as you can, the crown of the head moves away from the floor and your shoulder blades move up towards your waist. Then can you still feel the influence of the breath as though you were still humming there in the lower abdomen? Come on down. Good. Draw your elbows back towards your knees. Just rest for a moment. Release any tension in your shoulders. That tension was what was holding you up. It's a good thing there. And then change the interlock of your hands. Plant your wrists. forearms, elbows. Move your knees back again. And for one more time, let's go up as you were. Coil your toes, lift your bum, and come all the way up. This time look back at your feet and lift your heels as high as you can. Keep your knees flexed and then lift your buttock bones up as high as you can. If your head is near to the floor, see what you can do to press your base and lift up through the inner shoulder blades. Lift up through the abdominal muscles. Feel the influence of your exhaling breath in the abdomen. Beautiful. And then lower down. And you've just done an inversion. So take a moment, maybe in child's pose, fold your hands. You can make loose fists. Rest one hand on top of the other and your head onto your top hand. Feel like you've just folded your body to the floor like a beautiful piece of origami, and letting any wrinkles in your body release outwards. And what's your quiet breathing like at this moment? All right, and moving on, we've done a really nice stepping one step at a time towards a bridge, some bridge movements. I don't know what to call them, but kind of a methodical way of approaching the back bend, the bridge, Setu Bandhasana. So let's see. In the way of equipment, a block and a belt. Take a reclining position on your mat with on your back. With another few breaths just to settle in the back body into your support of the floor. And we're going to work with the block first. So take the block on its widest side, step your feet apart, and place the block in between your thighs, just above your knees. I think a preliminary step would be good here. Let's take the block out now and step your feet in just hip-width distance. Have your arms near to the side of your body and test your space there. Can you still do, from this position, an overhead stretch of your arms? There. Okay, and then leave your arms back by your side. And merely, this is all we're going to do is work with your breathing. On an inhalation, plant your feet and tilt your pelvis into a posterior tilt. And then on an exhalation, tilt your pelvis the other way. We haven't lifted anything up yet. We haven't gone into a back bend. We're just doing what? Like a kind of reality check in the movement of the pelvis and the lowest part of your spine. And with your breath. That's all it is the influence of your breath. Feel the exhaling breath in the area between the navel and the pubic bone. And allow for the inhalation without puffing up the abdomen. So there's still a little bit of control there. Now we're ready to move on. And with the block once more, and between the thighs, your feet as wide as they need to be for that wide knee position. And then feel what it's like to press against the block and then release. And pressing against the block and releasing. To balance that adduction pressing against the block, press the outside of your feet down at the same time. Knees or thighs press into center, the weight's on the little toe and the outer heel. And then a release. All right, and then let's try a slightly different position for the block and place it between the thighs just above the knees. And just a little pressure is fine. It doesn't have to be 120%. So a little pressure against the block and a little balancing on the outside of your feet. Releasing. And keep that movement up. Keep tuning into the low part of your torso. And last time, pressing in, balancing that inward pressure on the outside of your feet, and then releasing. And then let's go narrow side of the block. So stepping your feet in slightly, pressing on the inner thighs, adduction, pressing the outside of your feet. Releasing in between, and pressure, and release. One more time. Good. And then let's do away with the block and substitute the belt. So your yoga strap or whatever you've got there, bind it. And where we were using the block, we're going to use the belt this time. So I'm going to make my belt very narrow and slip it over my knees, just above my knees, and tighten it up. Now the feet are stepping in, close to each other. And think about those two, they almost seem counterintuitive movements. So now we can work with adduction, moving out against the belt. And at the same time pressing on the inside of your feet. And then releasing. So you're doing some really lovely movements for the base of your spine. So pressing out against the belt, pressing big toe and inner heel. The hips don't have to elevate, but you can feel there is that tendency just by dint of using the adductor muscles. And pressing out, pressing in on your feet. Make sure that you're not recruiting from any other parts of your body. Keep your upper body passive. All right, and then let's see what it's like to widen the belt. What you might discover by having that work for your abductors with your knees hip width apart, your feet hip width apart, and then working through those movements with the breath. And pressing out and pressing in on the inside of your feet. All right, and then we'll pause there. Release any of the muscles that you were engaging, and then widen the belt So you can step the feet out greater than hip width distance, and then working with that abduction again. It takes a little more concentration for me with my wide foot position. So pressing on the inside of my feet, pressing out with the belt there, restricting that movement. And then releasing. I haven't encouraged a particular way of breathing here, and I've tended to use the exhalation when I'm pressing out, but you might find it more helpful to use your inhaling breath. Definitely using much more of my buttock muscles on this movement. All right, and then let it all go. Let your pelvis rest quietly to the floor. Take your belt away. And without the props, let's do the pelvic lift into Satyabandhasana, into the bridge. So with your arms by your side, press into your feet, and on an exhaling breath, begin to peel your spine away from the floor and lifting up. And then on the inhalation, naturally coming back down, replacing the vertebrae one at a time as much as you can, and down to the floor. Let's go again. Where is the balance of your weight on your feet? Can you keep the footprint and the whole circumference of your feet engaged here, lifting up and then lowering back down? The next time that you come up and the hips are lifted to whatever extent you can, then bring your arms up and overhead and rest them on the floor, and just leave your arms there and feel like a tug that takes your knees away from the arms and your arms away from your knees. And then leave your arms where they are and lower down from upper spine or shoulder blades all the way down to the sacrum and the pelvis. Feel how long and lean and lithe your torso is. And then come up all over again. And this time, lowering your arms as you release your spine to the floor. And arms come forward and back to base. I found that really a lovely movement. I'm going to do that one more time. Rest if you need to, if you're over your back bendings. And then arms come up and overhead. And keep your arms there. Keep your hips elevated. See if you can move from the front of your hips to your knees. Knees away from you. Lengthen out. Arms away from your legs. Chin towards the jugular notch with the throat relaxed. And then lower yourself down. The last one coming all the way up. Thighs drawing the torso out, drawing the tail out, and then exhale, releasing in that methodical way from top to bottom, and arms by your side. And you might, and I do, feel an inclination, bend one knee towards your chest, second knee towards your chest. Rest your hands onto your tops of your thighs. Tops of your knees. And let your heels just hang down towards your buttocks and soften your elbows so your arms are passive. And then let's do just a few movements through Apanasana, the in and out movement of your thighs. So with an exhalation, draw your thighs near to you, but keep your buttock bones moving towards the floor. Inhale, just pushing the knees out a bit away from you. And exhale, You could think that humming sound or feel for that humming sound in that area, navel to pubis. And last one, in on the exhalation, that low breath, and then inhale, release arms and feet to the floor. You've done some nice preparation for a further inversion now. So come on up. If you're a regular and you have the props there to do it, you might want to do shoulder stand. And I've been enjoying doing what I call low shoulder stand, propped up on the bolster. So let me demonstrate that posture. And the only tricky thing about this is getting the right distance that gives you support, but also gives you a nice opening through um, the upper back area, the dorsal thoracic. So I've got a little space between my bolster and the wall that's going to be right for my anatomy, but maybe not for yours. So you have to test the water and see how far away to be from the wall. Now, in my position, I'm aiming to have my legs at about 60-degree angle, and that gives somewhat of a inversion. I'm just a little bit too far away from the wall. It's hard to estimate that 60 degrees if you're partly upside down, so you kind of have to fool around like this until you're ready to commit to be there. So shoulder stand or your inversion in low shoulder stand or even legs up the wall at this point, just to get that really lovely reversal of movement of the flow of the fluids in your body. So settle in there with one of those options. For me, this is a really sedative pose where my support is from my back waist through the sacrum and the pelvis, obviously. With the smallest of a back bend that allows the back chest to open up, the back of the heart, the back of the lungs. And if you want to close your eyes here to better go inside and sense and feel your body, you might also want, and I encourage it, to observe your breath. What are the subtle influences of your breath when you're more inverted, when you're passive and inverted? And allow to receive the breath into the abdomen. If you're in low shoulder stand or in Viparita Karani, legs up the wall, feel the breath. Abdomen and the upper part of your chest. Quiet breathing. If at any point you feel you want to come down a little sooner out of one of those poses, please do. And if you've done that or are anticipating doing that, just rest for a moment in reclining position. But otherwise, we'll stay for a further minute. And then plan your exit. Think about moving before you actually do. And legs beginning to come down. And when you get down and your legs are down, just rest your torso and rest your hands onto your lower abdomen. I think it's always a good idea for me, especially I have a busy mind and often a busy body, to take time at the end of a movement or a posture just to consolidate and understand what happened when I was doing that movement or posture. And then let's move on and coming into a seated position. I think it would be quite natural and a good thing generally to do a twist. We'll do a seated one. So when you come up, take up a blanket. I've got mine folded in 3. You could also use a bolster. And it depends on your ability to sit in a kneeling position. So let me demonstrate. So from Virasana or hero pose and sitting on my heels, I'm going to take that support, whatever you've got there, and just sit on a corner of the blanket with my right hip. So sliding the hips across onto the blanket leaves my feet out to the left side, and I've got one foot resting in the arch of the second foot. Adjust your posture so that your knees are pointing more directly forward. And I didn't plan very well, but a block could be handy here. Let me grab my block. Because once you're elevated and we do a rotation, you're going to bring your hand back behind you, and it might be, if your anatomy is better works better this way, to have your hand onto a block. That's up to you. But let's start 2 hands onto your thighs, facing directly forward. And then easy rotation, left hand, right knee, right hand onto the floor behind you or onto your block. And we're mobile and easy to rotate, I think, from the upper part of the body, from the head, maybe the neck, the shoulders. And then working with your breath, and you probably have already started to do this, on your exhalation, see if you can tease out the exhalation a little bit more and rotate from the lower chest and the diaphragm. And a few consecutive breaths like that, not even pulling with your left hand so much as encouraging the spine to rotate with your breath. Beautiful. And then bring your head back to center first, and then let's switch sides. And flipping your support over and your hip onto the left hip, and you're sliding your feet out to the right. Let's go right hand, left knee, left hand behind you. And that rotation happening in easy stages because you're using the breath. And inhaling is where you make space in the whole elongation of your spine, right through the crown of your head. And the exhalation, maybe you can get a little bit more out of it by retaining the exhalation a little bit longer and then creating the inhalation and exhalation. Exhalation is grounding if you're breathing into that lower abdomen area. All right, let it go. And let's go one more round with a slight difference. And this round, let's start with the hands onto the thighs and bring your right hand round your back where your forearm is parallel to the floor and your right arm is just underneath your kidneys. Then bring your left arm back a little bit and hold your left arm just above your elbow. Bring that left arm back and rest it onto your thigh. Left thigh or maybe right thigh. And then turning. Now you've bound yourself here, haven't you? So rather than feeling so bound up, use your forearm to help you lift your spine and lift the kidneys away from the lower part of your back. And then chest is high and the breath is there, and you've probably already been using the breath. All right, and finally releasing to the last side. Last side, the pose is Bharadvajasana. I've used the Sanskrit for that, and I've used it for so long I can't even remember if there is a common name. You can tell me later. And then setting yourself up, left hand comes around, clasp the top of your right arm when you bring it back, and then flip that right hand forward onto one thigh or the other thigh. Obviously, if you take your hand across towards the left leg, that's a deeper pressure onto your lower back. Make sure that the forearm is helping you lift up rather than pressing you forward. And then turning your head, turning your shoulders with the exhaling breath. Very good. And then let it go. Extend the legs out as you're ready. In Dandasana, rod pose. Oh, that feels nice to extend my knees after that. And then we're ready to move into the yoga relaxation. So you've got your props there to create maximum comfort. And do set yourself up. I recommend, I won't do it, but a covering for your eyes, meaning your eyes can relax a little bit more when you have a eye pillow or even just a scarf gently placed over your eyes. Helps block the light and release the eyes, the organs of the eyes themselves. So here we are in Shavasana, or at least the beginning of the relaxation. And I encourage you just to go full circle from the beginning of the session and bring your hands over your abdominal area, the lower abdominal area. Got my thumbs over the navel center and the fingers pointing in below the navel. And feel the influence of the breath again. And maybe here at the end of the session, and haven't given such commitment and kind attention to your breathing, the emphasis can be on letting go. Letting go of any tightness in the abdomen. And since I've been doing this practice recently, at the end of the practice and in relaxation, I've been getting something called peristalsis, which is just a kind of growling through the abdomen, which indicates release. And all those lovely organs that rest below the skin and the muscle of this area, the organs of elimination, have a little bit more space and more profound relaxation. So leave your hands there to feel your breath, or release the arms out to the side. Palms upwards. You can open up the corners of your top chest. And as we stay here for these few minutes, begin to allow the breath to be sensed, to be felt as more of a global breath. You can think head to hands, to feet, the whole body, and even possibly more of a subtle sensation of breathing. And that subtle breath can be noticed more in the little gap that can open up between the phases of the breath, between the inhalation and the exhalation, between the exhalation and the inhalation. Begin to play with the breath once more, to lengthen it both inhalation, exhalation. Allowing the breath to animate the body. Longer inhalations, longer exhalations. And in anticipation of moving, but only as you're ready and taking your own sweet time. Stay longer if you like, but otherwise bend your knees up and curl over onto one side in that fetal position. Help yourself up to seat. Seat yourself when you're ready. And once seated in that traditional way of bringing the hands together, and maybe without even making a sound, but feeling the breath, on successive exhalations as a way to ground yourself through your base, your feet, your legs, your pelvis. Lift your elbows a little bit and bring the inhaling breath up into the corners of your chest. Feel the lightness through the lifting of the heart center, the elevating of the heart center. Feel your own good energy, your goodwill that you fund from doing the practice, and especially from practicing together. And then bow your head towards your elevated heart. Namaste. Thank you.